what's going on? It's Landon Remixes here, and today I'm going to be reviewing the second studio album from Feed Me, called High Street Creeps. Feed Me is a character by and alias of Sir Jon Gooch, an electronic music producer based in the UK. I don't actually remember when I found out about Feed Me for the very first time. It very well may have been through Korn's The Path of Totality album, which he had a production feature on. But I do remember getting more into Feed Me around the time that Sir Gooch had an interview explaining where the Feed Me character and alias came from. And that story is something that's really stuck with me throughout the years. If I'm remembering correctly, his sister's hand got mutilated in a garbage disposal in a sink, and then after that incident happened, the garbage disposal wouldn't stop making a sound that sounded like the words "feed me." Pretty grotesque, but also really cool at the same time that he made this kind of evil character out of it. That interview happened around the same time as the release of Gooch's 2013 debut Feed Me album, Calamari Tuesday, which, fun fact, was the 100th CD I ever added to my collection. An album that saw Gooch expanding his horizons quite a bit with influences from pop, reggae, dubstep, trap, though mostly powered by electro house tunes, which were very original and chock full of personality. Some of my favorites being No Grip, Onsta, and of course the extremely memorable Death by Robot. Thoroughly enjoyed that album. I still spin it semi-regularly, though most of Gooch's projects following Calamari Tuesday failed to captivate me quite as much. Gooch's first album under his drum and bass alias Spore earned an especially infamous review from me, though I actually liked that album. I think I gave it a 7 out of 10 if I remember correctly. My wording was really poor and nobody liked that review. I did quite enjoy a number of tunes that were released under the Feed Me alias in the following years, especially the two that he did with Kill the Noise, Far Away and I Do Coke, as well as his remix of deadmau5's Strobe, which I've got to say is probably one of the greatest remixes I've ever had the pleasure of listening to. But when the singles for this album started rolling out with artwork that was strikingly similar to that of Calamari Tuesday, I had a feeling I was going to be in for a treat, and I can confidently say it was. This is my favorite project to come from Sir Gooch in a while, though I'd say I enjoy this album in a very different way than I did with Calamari Tuesday. High Street Creeps and Calamari Tuesday do share some similarities. That signature Feed Me sound remains at the forefront of this album's sonic direction. There are a variety of different influences across this album's track list. Songs like Barrel Roll actually sound like they could have fit very snug in with the Calamari Tuesday track list. In a lot of ways though, this album is a pretty big step in another direction entirely, which really makes it feel like its own fun and unique project. If you want my personal take on it, I think High Street Creeps is Sir Gooch paying homage to his influences and maybe the music of his childhood. As I was trying to get at before, High Street Creeps is just as varied as Calamari Tuesday, but it's varied in a way that makes me think this, because most of the avenues that Gooch goes down across this album's running length seem to be throwbacks, from techno to rock to synth pop to the style of progressive house that was popular around like 10 years ago. And though this variety makes High Street Creeps out to be a little less cohesive than Calamari Tuesday, it still kind of works from a conceptual standpoint that I can appreciate. And I think Gooch did a good enough job making these tracks not sound too weird coming after one another, but when you get through the entire album just as an experience, it's kind of like, whoa, what just happened? The album starts off similarly to Calamari Tuesday with Perfect Blue, a track that in a lot of ways reminds me of Orion, starting out soft and quiet but slowly building up the track with melodies and percussion, though instead of leading into a massive electro house drop this time, Feed Me takes a little bit more of a minimal approach using influences of techno, which I've gotta say really caught me off guard the first time. Can't really say I expected Gooch to take the underground route when it came to the intro track on his album. Perfect Blue leads into Shimmer, which is another one that takes a little bit more of an underground influence. The intro of the song reminds me a bit of some of the more tech house leaning tracks on Swedish House Mafia's first album, though the main structure of the song and its groove reminds me a lot of an older Deadmau5 tune, though I can't think of exactly which one right now. It's gonna drive me insane. Beside that though, I'd say the song does have a very Deadmau5 feel. In fact, if you didn't tell me it was Feed Me before I had listened to it, I probably would have thought Joel produced it. High Street Creeps truly is Feed Me's kind of long-awaited return to Mousetrap, even though he did have one EP before this. I think it was the Existential Crisis one. But really, this is the first big project he's done through the Mousetrap label in a long time, so paying homage to someone like Deadmau5 makes sense. About 12 minutes into the album, the song Sleepless gives listeners their very first taste of vocals, though I don't really want to overuse the term vocal here because the vocal used in the song is very heavily distorted and hard to understand. It feels more like an instrumental texture than like a traditional vocal. In fact, I have a very hard time deciphering the lyrics. Without looking, I would say it says, "Sleepless, far from home, stand across the end." You can let me know how far off I am with that. I'd say the main highlight of this song, though, definitely isn't just the fact that it's the first on the album to contain vocals, but the fact that it's the first on the album to feature some of those signature, delicious, slimy Feed Me basses. And I'd say it goes over pretty well, too, blending in some of those techno elements that were featured on the first couple tracks. The song also contains what I think is one of the few times that Sir Gooch is actually trying to meaningfully transition one track into the next, with a little vocal chop toward the end of the track, which seems to be kind of referencing the rhythm of the chop that's in the very next track, Feel Love. Feel Love was the first single released off this album, and I gotta say, I really adore it. Probably the best progressive house track I've heard all year, though I actually haven't heard that much progressive house this year. I recently found out that this song is actually a remix of a song by the same name by the featured vocalist Rosie Doonan. Feels like a lot of my favorite Feed Me tracks end up just being remixes, but that doesn't make them any less fantastic. This song is so genuinely heartbreaking, like Rosie Doonan's vocal performance just hits me so deep with her tones that feel more classically trained. When she sang the line, "You won't ever feel the way this hurts," I really felt that. It's just such a well-crafted work of progressive house too. I don't know many producers that are able to achieve this level of quality and also have like fantastic vocal performances there too. Also with a chord progression that just tugs at my emotions so hard. Definitely still one of the big highlights on the album for me. The song Till the Wheels Come Off features some of those rock influences I mentioned earlier. The singer Graham Fink actually reminds me a lot of Bono from U2 on this song. I definitely don't think this song is the most fantastic cut on the record, but I do think it is a bit of a unique number. Not only does it feature those rock elements, but it also is structured pretty strangely for an electro house track, with a lead that melodically and rhythmically sounds extremely unique. I haven't heard anything like the melody in this song before. One of the things that does actually bug me about the song is in its lyrics, where Graham Fink sings, "Listen closely, I'm only going to say this once," like multiple times. The following track, though, Satanic Panic, is actually probably my favorite song on the album. Just a super fun and crazy, off-the-wall electro house banger, featuring sound design that feels really unique to this song by itself, though it still blends in some of those signature Feed Me elements, like those ripping melodic synth solos that remind me why artists like Bad Computer are so inspired by Mr. Gooch. More than anything, though, I'd say it's just crazy fun, which evoked a lot of the same feelings in me that Calamari Tuesday did. Pumpkin Eyes is another interesting cut. Like I said earlier, this album features some interesting influences from early synth pop, and I think this song is the biggest example of that. It may be a weird comparison, but I think I was even getting some Tears for Fears vibes on this song. Honestly, it might also be the most out of place feeling song on the entire album. There isn't really anything in which its like groove or rhythm or style sounds really that close to it. Though I really do kind of start to adore this song, starting at 3 minutes and 20 seconds in, where it kind of breaks the pop formula and kind of builds into a little bit of a dance break. Undoubtedly one of the most unique and memorable moments from the entire album for me. Own Ghost is another kind of signature Feed Me Electro track on this album, though I'd say it's memorable almost strictly because of its ridiculous vocal chop, which is just like super sputtery and absolutely unintelligible. There really isn't a whole lot else I could tell you about the track, honestly. At the end of the day, that's really the thing that I'm going to remember from it. Defiant, I suppose, is a pretty fitting closer to the album. It's more melodic and vocal heavy than a lot of the stuff on the record. I think the song's drop is one of the most rewarding on the entire LP, flipping those melodies into a sequence of delicious Feed Me style basses, along with a super danceable groove. Though when the song is over, I kind of get this feeling of, wait, that was it? That was the entire album? And I mean, that feeling kind of makes sense considering High Street Creeps is a full 22 minutes less long than Calamari Tuesday. There are so many different things going on in what feels like really a short frame of time. It's more sonically diverse than Calamari Tuesday, which works in its favor, but it's also a lot shorter, so it feels a bit more discombobulated. As a collection of works, it is pretty solid, and of course I appreciate the diversity across this thing. High Street Creeps isn't Calamari Tuesday though, and I don't really expect it to be or even want it to be, but I just think the way that it's set up isn't going to make it as memorable of a project, especially when I'm thinking years and years down the road. Regardless, I would definitely suggest giving it a spin if you haven't yet. For High Street Creeps, I'm personally feeling a strong 7.5 out of 10. As always, if you guys haven't listened to it, I'm going to have the Spotify link in the description, and if you have listened to it, make sure to let me know what you think down in the comments section. Make sure to subscribe if you're interested in this type of content and want to see more, and leave a like if you did enjoy the review. Anyway, I hope to see you guys soon, and yeah, I'll catch you next time, or something like that. Bye!